Welcome to week 2 of the high school football playoffs. Volusia, Flagler, and St. Johns counties have, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams left. We've got 3 that won last weekend in the first round, and then we have Father Lopez, who has yet to play their first round matchup. That comes this Friday. Thanks for tuning in to Quick Slant. As always, I'm Chris Vinel. I'm joined by the expert Chris Boyle. You can find us both on Twitter. I'm at Chris A. Vinel. Chris is at Chris Boyle DBNJ. And you can check out our work on the St. Augustine Records website and in print, and the Daytona Beach News Journal's website and in print. Chris, week 1, takeaways, your thoughts. How do you think it went? I know we each put some bets on the line there at the end of last episode. I said 3 teams were going to win. You went with 4, and we had 3. So I did win, but the problem is I picked 4 in the primer the next day. So I kind of I don't know if I deserve full credit. Anyway, takeaways.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me was overall the competitive nature of these games. And I think that's a compliment to some of the new designs to the playoff system. There's definitely flaws with it. Don't get me wrong. Like some of the math, again, will never make sense to me. But overall, DeLand gave Osceola everything it could handle all the way to the wire. You've got St. Augustine and Choctaw. I expected it to be a high-scoring game, and that lived up to the billing. Flagler Palm Coast certainly wouldn't have been an 8 seed had not been for the forfeit, and they were able to give Bartram a run for the first quarter. It was 14-0 in that game, and then Bartram kicked it into gear.
They led at halftime.
Yeah, Creekside. I think Creekside, and again, just continually impressive week in and week out, to go all the way up to Navarre and really handle that team for most of the night was something special. And then, I think overall, you look at it, Mainland too. Mainland comes back from a deficit, a long delay, a lot of adversity that they face throughout the course of the evening with penalties, and they're still able to pull away late and to get over the hump and win that game, and an important win for Mainland to give themselves a shot here in this second round. I think overall the games were fun. They were all compelling. They were all interesting, and most of them were very competitive for long stretches.
Yeah, and like you said, we had a couple of teams lose in DeLand and St. Augustine, but we did have some winners: Creekside, Bartram Trail, and Mainland. That was Travis Rowland, the head coach at Mainland. That was his first career playoff victory as well. So congrats to him.
Those 2 teams that went out, by the way, DeLand, St. Augustine, I expect big things of them next year. Those are really young teams. I think they're going to be really strong next year.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you there. Let's go to Creekside at Bartram Trail. Rivalry game, same county there, and they've already faced off one time this season. What do you kind of expect from that game?
Energy. I think energy is the big thing. That's going to be extremely loud there. I've mentioned on this show before how Creekside's home atmosphere is, and they're just going to take it up, move their show right down the road, and they're going to try to make that game, as close to a home game for their team as possible. Bartram's going to be ready for it. Bartram is certainly, the on-paper favorite. They've won 14 of the 15 all-time matchups. But these games have gotten closer and closer over the years. Last year, of course, a game decided by a game-winning field goal as time expired. Bartram this year, their offense really shined. They scored on their first 9 drives. We'll see if Creekside's got some new wrinkles, some ways to slow down that game. Bartram did some things in that game. When I talked to Creekside's coach, Sean McIntyre, afterwards, they did some things in that game that just caught the Knights off guard, that they weren't necessarily expecting. And that's a big credit to the Bears to be able to add some wrinkles into a game that happens every year. So we'll see what sort of adjustments get made. These teams played basically a month ago, so you figure there's going to be some different twists, and I expect it to be a closer outcome.
Father Lopez at Trinity Catholic is your second game on Friday. Number 1 seeded Trinity, number 4 seed Father Lopez. This is a first-round matchup. 1A did not play last Friday. What do you see there? What kind of interest are you there?
I think this is a tough draw for Lopez. I think this is a really difficult ask of them to go up and play to me, one of the championship contenders in round one. For them to get going, they've got to protect the football. I think they've got to come up with a couple of really impactful turnovers, maybe make some short fields and cash them in. I think that would definitely go a long way to helping them try to pull off an upset. It sounds like they're going to have William Tucker ready to go, the quarterback who's battled a knee injury. If not, Ladarius Simmons won his first start a couple weeks ago, and he can step in. Really, it kind of comes down to Jackson Oldham, the running back. When they're running the ball effectively, they've got a chance. They're 4-1 this year when he goes over 100 yards in a game. They've got to do that. They've got to give him opportunities. They got to get him running and rolling with that offensive line. All freshmen and sophomores on that offensive line. So if they can get moving, if they can open up some holes, that will give them at least a chance. But this is a really difficult Celtics team that they're going to be playing.
Jackson Oldham's one of the stars on that Father Lopez defense as well, playing linebacker, along with their terrifying pass rush. If you go look at, the stat leaders, in the area in sacks, it's just littered with Father Lopez towards the top of the list. Last but not least, the Saturday game, Mainland at Rockledge. Rockledge won a really close one over Satellite last week, and Mainland beat O'Galley.
Yeah, Rockledge just got some questions at quarterback. It sounds like their starter was unavailable for that game against Satellite, and that could be, you can beat a team that's a lot lesser talent than you do with something like that. But if he's going to be out again this week, I think Mainland's in position to go down the road and win that game. Their starting quarterback, Traven Green, has 11 touchdown passes this season. This is a really tough game to call. I think both of these teams are similar in the sense that they've got a lot of top-notch athletes. I think Rockledge might be just slightly better up front in terms of the overall scheme, but there's skill here. James Randall for Mainland and Ajay Harrell, and they used Harrell a lot out of the backfield in Monday's game, from what it sounds like. I think that's an interesting potential twist and something they can do to get him in space and to get him extra touches. And then for Rockledge, I mean, they've got a number of guys who can carry the ball. They've run for over 2,000 yards as a team, with Jamarian Stevens leading the way with 6 touchdowns and 851 yards. And then Eddie Combs, the senior receiver, 421 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. He was at Satellite last year. So to me, this game will decide the region. Whoever wins this game, I think, will be favored over either Sebring or Jensen Beach. And I think that this is going to be a matchup that could overall send one of these teams to the Final Four.
Okay, you did this to me last week, so I'm doing it to you this week, and I'll give my answer. But off the cuff reaction, how many local teams win this week? How many local teams move on? You're guaranteed one because of Creekside, Bartram.
Yes, there will be at least one. That's for sure. I'll say we have 2.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going
to give Mainland the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot depends on the quarterback situation with Rockledge, but they've known for months that that's the team they're going to have to go through. So I guarantee you they know as much as they can about Rockledge. And I think the way they finished the second half last night was definitely a wake-up call. They had a whole surge of energy after that the transformer blew out. So I think certainly they're going to have a chance to capitalize on that, and I think that they're ready to go down there and potentially pull off a big win.
We'll be back next week to once again update you on how our predictions went. Check our websites for all the coverage of those games, and we will talk to you next week.